Thank you everyone for joining. Today is Monday, March 25th at 7:01 p.m. We are beginning our regular meeting of the Jamaica Selectboard. The first item of business is to call for any late additions to the agenda. And Greg, I did not add anything about the bridge because I didn't get any material from you, but you thought you might, nothing. Okay, all right.
There's one overweight permit.
Oh, one overweight permit?
Yeah.
I forgot about, I mean, it's more or less an update.
If you want to.
Nothing's changed. It's not-
Okay, then,
There's
all
no
right.
decisions been made.
I had it in my notes, and
Right,
then you
okay.
said you were gonna send me something. And then
Yeah, they had a follow-up meeting and
Okay.
nothing was decided.
Nothing was decided,
Nothing
right.
to report. So,
Excellent.
yeah,
All right, so we will add an overweight permit.
it's ongoing.
Yeah, I'm going over. All right, so I'm not seeing any other additional items to the agenda. The first item of business is to approve the minutes from the March 11th regular meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Any comments? No? Comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Where it was suggested that we move funds from the rec committee to the bike skills part. I just want to point out that that appears that the rec committee, I don't want to get into the discussion, has been inactive, but it hasn't been disbanded. So I just don't want it to appear that I voted for taking the money that was left in the rec committee and allocating it to the bike skills part alone. So I
Right.
don't want to change anything, but I didn't really know. I didn't know how to,
Which I remember.
Right.
I didn't
So I
really
would
know how to
suggest,
express myself on my disapproval of the wording of that, or that if it does in turn just go to the bike part, I could join the committee and see if I could redirect that.
I think
So
we didn't vote to change the committee.
right,
It's just
no, to change the
was
committee
there.
or to give the money directly to the bike
Yeah.
park. I think
I think
I can
I
refine
made a
it.
comment on it that if it appears to be that, that's not
That's
it.
how
Right.
this kind of reads.
So
It
I'm-
wouldn't be, right, you're actually.
I'm suggesting that we revise the minutes to reflect the fact that the board was, made a suggestion that the rec committee be directed to look at the bike skills park as a potential recipient of funds, but certainly not to abrogate their duty to dispense the funds inconsistent with the directives of the recreation committee.
That was the discussion. wasn't
That
it?
was, yes. Yeah. So it's not, we're not disbanding the rec.
Yeah.
We can do that now, I'm fine with that, but instead of.
I think that's what our resolution was, and maybe the minutes just need to be refined.
And no disrespect to the way the minutes were put down either, but it's actually in a nutshell what we said, the short version, but
Okay,
that's it.
nothing else? Any other comments on? Terrific, so I'll make a motion to approve the March 11th regular meeting minutes
Was
As amended.
as amended.
as amended. Len, second? Yeah. Any further discussion? If no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great.
Abstain from that one.
Abstain? Okay, we still have quorum.
I know.
And the next item of business is to approve the minutes of the March 11th organizational meeting, which is the meeting we opened with. Any comments on those minutes?
You made a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Yes, sorry, I didn't wait for a second, but it's discussion time. Anything? Okay, if no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. None opposed, thank you. All right, the next order of business, we have a few people here, as well as some people on Zoom. We are going to be making, as a board, a recommendation to the WRED, the West River Education District, which has a different name, seems to have a different name all the time, to fill an open seat, which had previously been filled by Drew, and Dana is currently a member of that board. There is a lot kind of going on right now with respect to the Jamaica Village School. So I think it makes this recommendation maybe a little bit more of top of mind for people than it might have been otherwise. So thank you very much for coming and for all of your years of service on the board. This is relatively new to me, being, kind of self-educating about the merger and all of that, and also where the status of the school is. I think it's well known to everyone here that at the last meeting, which was a meeting that you weren't at, Drew, because at that point you weren't actually a member, but which I think probably many people in the meeting right now watched, there was active discussion of closing the school. So that, of course, raised interest and concern of some, and for me, just to oh, wait a minute, do we need the question of how could that happen permanently, temporarily, and the role of the town in terms of its citizens voting on that action. So it just makes the topic, your being here and having been a member of the board and being here to be considered to be recommended a little bit more interesting, I guess I'll say that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Not the usual, humdrum board meetings.
Yeah.
So, basically, first of all, I want to open it to the board. If anybody, I think I've been involving myself just literally the last 2 weeks in this question. But really, we are all voting on the budget tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Wednesday, sorry.
Informational tomorrow.
The meeting is tomorrow. The actual vote by Australian ballot is Wednesday. I know, because these guys are very valiantly hold our Australian ballot. Are you surprised by that, Sarah? Are you ready for the vote on Wednesday? I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, from my perspective, I'd love to just hear about the budget.
Yeah.
To what extent, how does Jamaica, your role on the board is obviously as a member of the board. And so you're looking at it as a whole, like you're looking at the district as a whole, post-merger, right? So all the towns. So, but you bring to it, of course, your intimate knowledge of the town and, the citizens of the town and this school, etc. And you both have had kids that have gone through both schools. So just, I'm interested to hear your thoughts about the budget. How do you feel the budget supports Jamaica Village School, doesn't? What goals is it serving for the whole district? Is that a fair question?
Yeah. So, can I go back a little bit further in time?
You need to go back.
Please.
Because I think there's some people that probably, I've now stood in front of the town meeting, I think for at least, 15 or more years, and asked the public to get involved. And somewhere in the minutes, it probably shows that it's time, we really need to get some people interested in showing up and talking about education. And we've had a couple of periods of time where we've had 3 or 4 people from Jamaica. Karen's always one of them that will show up at our board meetings and get engaged. Other than that, we've had almost no public participation.
Her, Patty, Dixon.
Yep, and Patty.
Patty, right.
Even with those pleas at a town meeting to really get involved because things are changing. So I was on the Jamaica Village Board back before the merger. And we were starting to see trends at that time. So when my daughter was at the school, we had 100 students. At JVS, we had portable classrooms. We were bursting at the seams. And that changed. Their student population started to decline. But what didn't change was our education funding formula. And up until last year, the education funding formula has been consistent for the last 20 plus years. And as we all know, in Jamaica, it means that we pay more than our fair share. It's an opinion it's an opinion. The state would say we pay our fair share, but I believe we pay more than our fair share because we do contribute more tax dollars to the state education fund than we get back in order to educate our kids. Part of that, or the reason for that, is because Jamaica has property value, and our grand list is pretty high, comparable. So we've been a contributing town to the education fund for a long time. That's created some difficulties in our district over the last 20 years, where because every dollar that we spent, we were essentially being taxed $2 on. We were forced to start cutting programs, cutting opportunities for kids. And like I said, this isn't in the last couple of years, we're talking over the last 20 years, deferring maintenance, and in order to try to keep our tax rates where people could actually live in the town. As we did that, we started seeing students moving. And we had families that actually moved out of this community into other communities so they could attend different schools. Well, the way the education funding formula works is actually based on the number of students in your school as part of the multiplier. So as our students' enrollment dropped, the multiplier also had an effect on our tax rates. We were forced to cut more programs, which meant we lost more kids, which meant we lost cut more programs, and we lost more kids. So over the last, again, 20 years, but really in the last decade, we've watched our total number of students continually drop. That brought us up to the kind of the conversation about the school consolidation that came as a legislative action where we were forced to find somebody to merge with. And the West River Education District really was the only option for Jamaica. And the reason for that is because Jamaica joined the Leland and Gray Union High School District back, I think, before I was born.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we were required to send our high school students to Leland and Gray. The only way that we could have changed that would be to get an affirmative vote from all of the other towns that were part of the district and to have them let us out. There was a vote in Jamaica, and somebody can probably tell me what year, to attempt to leave that district, and that vote actually failed. So when we got to the point of the merger, we had to merge with like districts. So we had to merge with a district that had K through 6, and then utilized the Union High School, which really left us with merging with Townsend, Newfane, and Brookline. So there were other options, but they were really not achievable options for Jamaica at the time. So we merged the 3 school districts and Leland and Gray to create a K through 12 education district. That vote came to Jamaica. I don't remember how tight the vote was, but I don't think it was overly close, and we joined the district. When we joined the district, it came with articles of agreement, and some of those articles of agreement involved what would happen if it became necessary to close a school. Some of those articles included where would students go to school. And what was promised to the communities at the time was that the students in the district would have school choice within the district. So if you were a Jamaica resident and you wanted to send your student to Newbrook Elementary School, you could, assuming they had room for your student. Obviously, the kids in the home community got first dibs at the seats, but if there were other students in the district, you could basically move from one school to another inside the district. There are some other things that were written in there, like if there's a sibling that went to that school, then it put you higher on the priority list. There's an entire structure around it.
Yeah, a lottery.
And then eventually, at the end of the day, if there was not enough seats, there was lotteries and stuff. But we never actually did any of that. So with that, many of the students that were in Jamaica choiced out. We were one of the families that choiced out. And the reason for that is because the bigger schools had more available programming for our kids. So that brings us up to kind of what's going on now. So over time, more students choiced out. Part of that is because students started their educational career at preschool in Townsend. Now, Townsend, Newfane also has to send their students to Townsend in order to get public education preschool. There's only one preschool in the West River Education District currently. Many of those students stayed in Townsend. Many of them may have stayed or not, who knows. In Townsend, those classes have actually been full or filling up, they're not completely full, and the student enrollment in Jamaica has continued to drop. Where we're at currently is there's an education funding formula change that took effect this year that was supposed to help some of the inequities that existed in the old formula. So it took into consideration pupil weighting. Believe it or not, the number of students in your school is not as simple as walking in and counting the number of kids. You would think that you could count all the kids, come up with a number, and that would be your student enrollment. That's not the way it works in Vermont. Depending on the student's socioeconomic status, their ability to speak English, their special education needs, each student has a multiplier, so you may be looking at 12 students, and those students may count as 14, or that may count as 10, based on their new formulas. So the idea of changing the pupil weights was to help smaller schools that had been historically underfunded. I'm trying to come up with a politically correct way of saying what I'm thinking. So with that, there was some spending thresholds. So the idea was in the first year of this new pupil weighting, there would be some hold harmless built into it. And those hold harmless was if your budget increased more than 5%, but not more than 10%, then your tax rate couldn't go up more than 5%. Something to that effect, don't quote me.
Yeah,
Make a long story short, when the legislature figured out exactly what that was going to cost, they've withdrawn all of those protections, and those hold harmless do not apply to us in this district anymore. That's one of the reasons why it took so long for the West River Education District to finally come out with their budget, is because we were waiting to see what the legislature was going to do in changing the law kind of mid-course. So the budget, what does the budget look like right now? The budget is almost the same as it was last year. The budget was built on really changing nothing in our overall education in the West River Education District. It also does not address any of the deferred maintenance, and it does not put back any of the programs or educational opportunities that we've stripped out over the years.
We're talking about Jamaica.
We're talking about district-wide.
Oh, district-wide.
District-wide.
So the budget for this year supports the budget that everybody will be voting on Wednesday. Supports educational programs almost exactly as they exist today. There's really no changes in it.
We just balanced it pretty much.
But what it,
No reorganization
There-
in the line items, each
it's
line item
pretty
is
much
roughly
yeah.
staying.
There's a couple little things, but as far as like overall, and we won't give you all the dirty details because then you won't come to the informational meeting.
Yeah.
So please come and you can ask all the questions. But essentially, you can think of it as pretty much the same. There's no big surprises in this budget. What it does not do is it does not address the literally millions of dollars worth of deferred maintenance that exists within the district. That was something that the board was trying to do, utilizing some of the hold harmless caps, because the reason we have deferred maintenance is because of the funding formula and the fact that we got robbed for the last 20 years. So we were hoping that maybe we could fill in some of that gap with some education fund money. Not going to happen. So the school district is currently sitting with significant deferred capital needs. We are, as everybody can probably tell, pretty well tapped as to what we can ask the taxpayers for. And we've got some tough decisions to make. So what does that look like? We've spent the last, when did we start the first committee? 5 years ago? 6 years ago? trying to come up with that answer. So we've called it the Long-Term Planning Committee. We've met. We actually had for quite a few weeks. We met right across the street over at Ed's place. Dirty Duck. It was wonderful. We had a lot of participation in Jamaica. And we've been looking at what can we do to improve educational opportunities for kids. We went through that first year. Dana and I both sat on that committee. Karen didn't miss many meetings. And we came up with what I thought was a pretty good plan to continue providing high quality education in Jamaica and restore some of the educational opportunities that we've taken away from our kids. Ultimately, the board decided to scrap that study and start over. So the committee, they formed a new committee.
Yeah.
And the new committee reviewed all of the same information the old committee did. They brought that forward for another year and then started over for a third time. So where we're at in that process right now is they have reviewed all of the documentation and the information and the research of the two previous groups. And now the board has hired Stevens and Associates to start looking at doing some more engineering studies to figure out what the spaces will allow. So part of the reason why there's more discussion happening now than there was before is because the information is starting to come back from Stevens and Associates as to what are the conditions of our buildings, what are the capital needs, what are the space limitations that we have, what type of programming can we offer. And we don't have the final information back on that yet. That meeting was supposed to have been last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, but they postponed it.
Postponed. Not that I can go to that meeting now anyway, because I'm not a board member, but that meeting did get postponed, so kind of the final information from there is not out. With that, there's been a lot of projections, and I don't know how they project what the student enrollment is going to be in 2035. Somehow, there are smart people in the world of academics that are predicting how many children are going to be born in Jamaica over the next 10 years and show up at school. I don't know how they count those, but we project, the projections that they have show that our student enrollment is going to continue to drop.
I think 335 was 300 and...
Yeah. So another 10%.
For the whole district?
For the whole district.
Yep.
359 kids. It's in the, or
Yeah.
375.
Okay.
It is in your
375.
in your book. So with that, we started looking at, again, data points, and the data currently is showing that we will have 9 students that are choosing to go to Jamaica School in the fall of 2024. Now, the board has not taken any action. The board has not changed any plans. The budget does not, remove Jamaica School or anything like that. This data has now been available for 2 months.
2 months.
As soon as that information became available, it happened to line up very nice with town meeting, which is why Dana and I said we wanted to speak at town meeting and make sure people in Jamaica were aware
To hear from us.
there's some stuff going on. And there's a meaningful conversation that needs to happen. So the way that the school closure component works, and we kind of said this at town meeting, schools cannot close without a vote of the town itself. So the school board cannot close Jamaica Village School. I think that's very important for people to understand. The school board can change the education that is offered at a school. So, for example, they can only offer kindergarten at the school and not offer any other grades. That's within the purview of the board. So,
I'm sure I would agree with that, but that's okay.
yeah, as it's written, like by the letter, that is allowed. So one of the things I said at town meeting was the public needs to get involved. Dana and I have had many conversations about it, and we do not support those type of changes without having robust public conversation first.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Talking about the new Secretary of Education, can the state supersede the towns?
They can.
Because based on what I read,
They can. And so we are getting into an area that is very similar to the situation that Wyndham was in. So if you look at the student counts and you look at the challenges that we'll face here next year, it's very similar. And in that case, the Secretary of Education was very much involved, and the school board opted to basically temporarily suspend education. They didn't close the school. Again, that has to be done by the taxpayers. So there is a possibility that they could suspend education at the school, move the kids. That would be a Secretary of Education type thing.
it seemed like that was one of the goals that she was looking at in the quotes that I read.
So this is a new factor. So if anybody doesn't know, we now have a new Secretary of Education that has a different background, and that's going to add additional complications to our discussion, not knowing what direction they're going to push. So and I know I'm speaking for Dana because we've had this conversation a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We want to make sure that the citizens are part of this conversation. We've been pushing the last 2 board meetings, once this information started coming out and we started saying like, wait a minute, 9 kids, like what does this really look like in the future? I pushed even at the last meeting to start scheduling dates for public meetings so that we can start having discussions with the people that are going to be affected most. As of right now, the board has not, as far as I know, scheduled any meetings
No.
to come up here and talk to the public.
They don't have answers for you. They're afraid they'll show up and won't have the answers that people are wanting to know.
Yeah, so.
So hopefully that was a...
Yeah. Hold on one second, hold on. So, thank you. I think that's been very helpful for a lot of people. We have a number of people on Zoom, including potentially, I think, someone else who is interested, potentially also in sitting on the board. Can I have a raise of hand or a voice out if that's the case? I just got this. Yeah.
No.
Can you hear?
I just have a question.
I just wanted to see if there was someone else who would also like to speak with respect to an interest. Are you interested in sitting on the school board?
No,
Oh, okay.
I've been there.
Got that t-shirt at home.
Okay, I guess not. If
Saying anything.
Oh, okay, you don't see a hand up or anything like that. All right. At any time, if someone would like to speak out that they're interested in sit in the open seat on the school board, please do so. If not, no worries. And then why don't you go ahead? Please ask a question. Clara. Sorry, I should have been clear. Clara, I still saw your face. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, the question, more or less a comment and question. No, I have sat on school boards for like 15 years, as Drew knows, in the past. But the question is, how many people realize that if the school were to close, that Jamaica is still responsible for the monies for the rest of the district. We will be paying taxes. And so we're wondering, a number of people that I've spoken to are wondering, what does Jamaica get out of that piece of money that it's 9% now, and who knows what it's going to be. So I don't know if Drew can answer that question, or that I plan to go to the meeting tomorrow, but I'm throwing that out. Because whether or not the school is open, we still pay the taxes.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I think I understand the question. So the answer is, if there was a school or if there was not a school in Jamaica, has no effect on your share of the overall education district. If the town was to vote to close the school, then the town would take possession of the building and the property. That's part of the articles of agreement. So the town would own the building, that's what you'd get back. But your per pupil cost, because all of the students from Jamaica would simply be going to West River Education Schools, would be, you'd still be paying that in. Everybody in the district would share in the reduced overall budget from, so the people of Newfane, Brookline, and Townsend would see us, we're talking tiny offset for closing the school because we would be reducing the budget by several $100,000 by closing the school.
Not many.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot considering the small of the school, the small staff.
Right,
It would be a drop in the bucket.
right. Some would say a huge loss in potential for the town,
Yes.
for
But-
very little financial
Yeah, there's
benefits.
no
Right.
really financial gain there.
Except, don't forget the capital needs assessment for the building, which is an additional investment that someone is going to have to bond.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece. So and this is why it really needs to be a conversation, because whether the school district pays for those capital improvements that need to be done, the town takes the building back, like there's a lot of pieces, but every one of the buildings has significant capital needs.
Yes.
And the district is going to have to bond this. So obviously the bigger the bond, the bigger the tax bill. So as far as the operational costs, you're probably talking about several hundred, $300,000–400,000.
That's enough.
But there is a chunk of deferred maintenance that is also our responsibility. The other piece that we haven't talked about here in this room, and I hope that at some point we can have, is what we're being told from all of the professional educators, which I am not, is that the education provided with 6 to 9 students in the room ranging from preschool to 5th grade will not be equitable to the education that's being provided in the other 2 district elementary schools. So there is an equity issue that they're raising as well. And I would certainly let the education experts argue that, but I'm just
Done a lot of
sharing.
reading about that magic word equity. Seems to hide a lot of sins, but.
And that's why I will let them, assuming they come to a meeting up here in Jamaica, answer that, or you can ask them at the Wednesday meeting.
Right.
But there's been concern about
Right.
equity in education because of the size of the
Right.
school.
Clara, did you have any other questions?
Not at this time. I'll be at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, can you see if there are any hands raised?
I don't see any hands, but they're not jumping up at me, that's for sure.
I see a lot of folks on mute. They can take themselves off mute. And any other questions?
There's a hand.
Oh, I see a hand. Who's that? Chrissy Haskins. Chrissy, can you unmute yourself? Do we have to unmute her?
No, she can't.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you. So I've got a few things. I was listening to what Drew said, and just a few comments to respond to that a little bit. You're asking for the public and the community to get involved and come to meetings and share thoughts and opinions, and participate. But when we did that 2 years ago, the board questioned why they should consider public input, because the public is not educators. And we don't go to the trainings that the board might go to. And there was several comments about this. And I was pretty involved 2 years ago. I was on the elementary education committee. I attended a lot of the secondary education task force meetings. I was going to board meetings in person and virtual, whatever I could do. And when I heard the board comment that why should we listen to all this public input because those people don't know education, that's when I just stopped. I gave up even participating with the board at that point because it was clear to me that the board didn't want my opinion. And I feel that some of the community might feel that way. The significant change in our enrollment. I understand there was a decline in enrollment before the merger, but when we merged, the significant drop from somewhere around 80 down to where we are now at 12 in the school was triggered by the inter-district choice and elimination of pre-K. These two decisions destroyed our school. It took away our feeder program. I mean, pre-K was a big thing. Without pre-K, we don't have a feeder into our school. So if you're going to send your child to pre-K for 2 years in Townsend, your child becomes comfortable there after 2 years. They have friends, they know the staff. Many families aren't going to then move their child back out of Townsend. Or maybe they have younger children that are going into pre-K, so they're going to keep their older child in Townsend now, so that they only have to go to one school. So not having pre-K killed our school. That destroyed Jamaica. We finally have the blessing to get pre-K back, and now it sounds like the board doesn't even want to give us a chance. The declining enrollment throughout the district is representative of displeasure with the educational opportunities in the district. The board hasn't listened to this and continues down a path of poor choices, and the continued discussion of closing Jamaica and consolidating schools is just furthering this displeasure with our district. Nobody wants to move to Jamaica. I have friends who live in other towns that will not move. They're trying to move somewhere. They need to move from wherever they are living. They will not even consider Jamaica because of our school situation. So you're going to lose more students if you continue down this path. The comment about larger schools having more opportunity or programming, I guess that depends on what your priorities are. My priority would be for my child to be outside more and have access to the state park, have a family feel at school, have just that more individualized education. And that's what JVS offers. You mentioned there are 9 students choosing JVS. There are more. Karen has done some amazing work, as has Monica, our principal. And unfortunately, we're doing the work, it seems, of what the district should be doing. But our community right now is supporting JVS and getting more students interested in JVS. We're putting out flyers, and we've been doing a lot of outreach, and I have to credit Karen for a lot of that. She's done a lot of the legwork behind it. And this is something that our district needs to get better at. The comment about reducing the budget, closing Jamaica would reduce the budget by several $100,000. The board's discussion so far on closing Jamaica has been that you'll use the school for something else. So you're still going to have all the deferred maintenance to take care of. You're still going to have those capital costs. You're still going to have electricity and a water system drawn and all the other things to maintain the building. So it's unclear as to how you're saving a few $100,000 by closing Jamaica. And I can't find that specifically in the budget. It's not broken out that way. And then the comment about professional educators saying that education is inequitable at smaller class sizes. I just have, it's good to hear that the board is finally thinking about equity in Jamaica, because 4 years since this merged district was created, the board has not considered equity in Jamaica at all. There was a comment on March 11th at the board meeting when there was a discussion about moving Townsend kids, forcing Townsend kids to go to JVS for pre-K. And there was a question from a board member asking if it was inequitable to force Townsend students to go to Jamaica for school. So why has that question not been asked at the board ever since the merger happened? About, is it inequitable to force Jamaica kids to go to Townsend or Newbrook? That question has never come up as far as I've heard. Never. The board doesn't consider equity for Jamaica students. It only considers equity for Townsend, Newfane, and Brookline students. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
So Karen,
When you're ready.
You can, do you want to, if we can let Karen say something, yeah, go ahead, Karen, please.
So I can't say much more than what Chrissy said because we feel very similar on this topic. But when Drew was talking about Jamaica students declining, the whole state was declining, our whole district was declining, not just Jamaica.
That's important, yeah.
And Newfane does not have a pre-K, but didn't the town vote to not have a pre-K because they wanted to support the 2 private preschools?
There's no vote in Newfane.
Okay,
But Newfane has multiple preschool options.
right.
They have one in Brookline and one in
Timpson Hill.
Timpson Hill.
I thought it had been said a couple of times that they wanted to support those private.
They support them off the
pre-Ks.
record. They
Okay.
just community support like you would do for Jamaica.
Right.
They're doing the same for those down there.
Okay, but that is
It's
why
not official.
Newfane does not have a pre-K. It's not the same as taking away our pre-K license. And I also wanted to say, if the board focused, and administration focused more on promoting Jamaica School instead of constantly threatening to close it, and promoted how great it is, we would have more people moving here, more families here, more students here. But that's really hard to do when the board and the administration continually threaten to close it.
Yeah, I'll share that Karen sent to me, she did the research and she identified the students within the town of Jamaica, regardless of where they go. She actually noted where they go.
Infants to 18.
Infants to 18. So obviously the Leland and Gray we can kind of put to the side because our discussion today is pre-K through 5. In addition to quite a few potential candidates for pre-K and kindergarten, it was an eye-opener for me to see all of these students who are resident here and who are going either to other schools in the district or to other schools that are not in the district. And or homeschooled. And still, we even have slots for homeschoolers, in the school. We know about that. And I was I'll be honest, I was a bit taken aback by that because the Jamaica Village School as a plant has some real unique qualities. It's, I think, the only elementary school in the district, maybe in southern Vermont, that's not on a state highway, which to me is extraordinary that that's the case in a state like Vermont. It's also, of course, linked to the state park, and I did do a little self-education. In full disclosure, I have 2 children with special learning needs, one of whom is dyslexic. And so that, some of the benefits that Jamaica Village School by definition offers, for someone who doesn't have resources for private school education for those kinds of learning challenges, it's a godsend. So I am Johnny come lately. I think what Chrissy said is, it's maybe point counterpoint, but it's another set of observations about how we got to where we are, which I think, again, history is important, but so is, okay, here we are today, flat budget, year on year, potentially increased enrollment for the coming year, and knowing that there's going to be a 2035 plan, whatever that's going to be, but finding Jamaica's slot in that 2035 plan, to me, as chair of the select board of this town and kind of thinking about its growth and Jamaica town's 2035 plan, having a school that's a viable option to incoming parents or existing parents should be high on our list. Like, just as a standing back objective matter, we have the plant, we have a program in place, we are paying a significant burden of the education tax budget, our fair share, if not more. So to take that money and put it towards other plants that I think, based on, I did have a conversation with Bob Tebow, there are limitations in terms of slots at Townsend right now. So we might have a situation where we've got pre-Kers and Kers going all the way down to Newbrook, which to me does not, I just don't get that. Or in a trailer outside of the school.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the demand for pre-K? I mean, are there more people than there are seats?
I think Karen, do you want to just chat about that quickly?
Quite a few from Jamaica will send their kids up to Montessori and pay money, but here it's free. There's quite a few kids. What was your question? I'm sorry.
No, so if the only pre-K is in Townsend,
What is our plan?
no, are they full? Are there seats?
Townsend is full,
Are
is
there,
what I was told.
Yes.
are there, so there are children that are trying to get into the pre-K
There's slots
program.
open.
Yeah,
There are slots open.
There's slots open.
But Bob Tebow said that it looks like they're going to be full and they will probably be sending children away this
That's what he said to me. That's what he said.
Well, Bob's telling
Is
one
there-
He said
thing.
that at the meeting.
Another.
Is there anything that prohibits one school over another from,
Well, right now,
offering something over and
Newbrook
above?
doesn't have a pre-K license. The only one that exists is in Townsend.
I was thinking about K.
K.
Yeah.
Oh, K is different. Yeah.
K's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have said pre-K.
Pre,
Pre-K and K are completely different programs.
Yes, yes.
So that's what I'm wondering.
But both can be served at Jamaica Village School.
So, and they operate completely different. So, a preschool license is very different than a K through 6 license. The way that they operate, in fact, the agency they operate under is completely different. Preschool is not a required offering, so it's an elective that the district chooses to offer. Parents can take preschool money from the state and go to preschool, other preschools. There's a voucher available, so those parents that are choosing to go to wherever they're choosing to go to are probably taking advantage of the voucher program to take the state dollars and go to those preschool programs.
We did.
That's very different than your kindergarten to, 5th grade. So I think it's important people realize that they're not the same. It's not like just an extension of your elementary school.
Right.
It's a very different program. So in order for us to have a preschool program back in Jamaica, there's a licensing process and, regulatory requirements that have to be met. So we can't just pick one up and drop it.
Right.
And my understanding is that the district is currently going through that process to obtain a license to hold preschool here in the fall.
Just the elephant in the room for me is if I was a parent and I took the opportunity to send my kid to the Montessori or to wherever, another school choice, I don't think you can totally blame what's going on with Jamaica School on the school board and the administration down there as the, parents are making the ultimate decision where to send their kids. Come on, put some of that on where the kids are getting sent. I mean, does that make any sense? Or, there's the opportunities, if I had a kid, whether there was 80 kids down there or not, I might want them to go somewhere else for other reasons than what I've just been hearing.
Bob Tebow told us only one applicant for Jamaica
That's what-
this fall.
But
And
maybe-
people are questioning, well, you must be because you took away our license and stuff. And I'm like, nah, listen, if people wanted their kids to attend Jamaica School pre-K, they'd be beating down Bob's door saying, sign my kid up, or they'd be down at the school signing my kid up. People are making the choice, like you said, Andy, not to attend school in our district. They're making that choice.
So 60% of the Jamaica kids are currently choicing out of Jamaica Village School.
And that started with 80 or 90 kids down there.
About that.
I'm just, it's not totally fair to blame it all on.
I don't know why nobody's blaming.
No, I'm just making an observation.
I think it inhibits a healthy discussion.
Now listen to me. I disagree with what you're saying. I just made an observance. If I was a parent and I sent my kid somewhere else, that was not totally on them.
I don't think anybody's blaming anyone, Andy, that's all I'm saying.
Wow. I just made an observance, that's all.
Okay. Please, no one's blaming anyone. This is a healthy conversation, discussion, pros and cons.
It's certainly a challenging conversation, it's an emotional conversation. It's a conversation this community needs to have. And that's what we've been pushing for, is to bring the conversation to not just Jamaica, to all of the towns.
Right.
What are we going to do with our education system moving forward? What we can't do, this is again my personal opinion, we can't keep eating 20% tax increases year over year. Like, I don't think that's reasonable.
But closing the school's not gonna change that.
So
Agreed? Or did I miss something?
changing the school will have some effect on that. What's going to have a long-term effect is on the programming we can offer our kids. So we're gonna have to start making choices again. What do we cut next? We've already deferred the maintenance. We've already cut down to the bare bones of our educational programs. In order to keep our taxes as low as they are, what do we get rid of next?
Is there
Karen, I
any-
know you had your hand up.
Dana was mentioning the parents sending their kids to other pre-Ks and things. But those parents are all so confused about what's going on and are hearing constantly that Jamaica School is closing. So they're not even thinking about that. Why would they send their child for 1 year when they're thinking it's going to close the next year? That's the rumor around.
Well, maybe we should start calling the rumor, because the board has not made a decision to close. But as school board directors, we are responsible to provide an equitable education for every student in the district. Right now, I mean, there was a limit that I thought we could get at. If we hit the 9 kids, the below the 10 kids, they right now have a part-time school nurse, a part-time school counselor, if they even hit a school counselor. Their special ed is part-time, their music teacher's part-time, their art teacher's part-time. The other schools have full-times. They have increased numbers, so they get the full-time nurse, they get the full-time student counselor, they get the full-time special ed, they get all the things. Well, one of the long-term plans that we were talking about was one campus model, where all our kids are under one campus. But that got shot down because nobody wanted to give up their schools. In order to do that, the state has pushed out, the state board of education or the state legislature, reducing the cap. They threw out a construction aid package. They're pushing for a newer and fewer, which means further consolidation. So we were looking at one time of combining the Townsend and Leland and Gray campus as one. That way everybody had equal opportunity to school nurse full-time, 2 school nurses actually, full-time counselors, teachers. We'd have 2 classes per grade. That's is what they were saying, two classes per grade. So you're talking 2 5th grade classes, 2 6th grade classes, 2 4th, 3rd, and so on. So if one kid had trouble in one class, let's say there was a behavioral issue, that he couldn't get along, he or she couldn't get along with a classmate, and there was causing some chaos for the whole class, you had that other class you could separate. You could also work teachers there, they could collaborate together to come up with better curriculum. All be on the same page with the 3 grade schools. They collaborate, the principals, administrators collaborate, but really do they completely 100% what's being taught in Jamaica is being taught in Newbrook, is being taught in Townsend. So when they get to Leland and Gray, then the kids all join together for 6th grade, you got kids all over the place.
I have a question.
Oh, Christy, yeah. Yeah, Christy, please.
Hi, I had some comments going back to the pre-K discussion there. On Newbrook, that whole thing, if I recall correctly, came up because the district was looking at equity when we merged, and Jamaica and Townsend both had pre-K, and Newbrook didn't have public pre-K. And so the board offered Newbrook pre-K, and Newbrook wanted to support, or Newfane and Brookline wanted to support their private pre-Ks. They didn't want those businesses to close. And so they said, we don't want public pre-K in Newbrook. And the board basically said, okay, we won't force you to take it, but what can we do now to do something about equity? Let's take it away from Jamaica. Now, I'm not really clear on how that was an equitable decision because Jamaica doesn't have a private pre-K option. And that decision only hurt Jamaica, it didn't hurt any other town in our district. So that's what happened there. That's why Newbrook doesn't have pre-K, they never wanted it. And the board listened to them, but then they took it away from us for some reason. The comment about parents taking money to other schools for pre-K, you can't just go, the state doesn't just give you as a parent money and go pay for your full pre-K at anywhere else. You get a 10-hour voucher, which means they pay for 10 hours of pre-K at another school. I am a parent who sent my child to West River Montessori School because Townsend doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for my family. And it would not have been a good situation for my son at 3 years old to go into that Townsend school. It just would not have worked. And so I chose to go to Montessori. I paid $700 a month for 9 months out of the year to go to Montessori after the 10-hour voucher was applied. So it is not something that every single parent can do. Every single family can't do that. It's not like we all can just take money from the state and it's free for us to go to pre-K. It's not. It is free to go to public pre-K if your district offers that, which ours does. Unfortunately, it's just not, it doesn't work for everybody the way it's being offered right now. And that's why I was very excited to hear that it would be coming back to Jamaica. Again, confirmed licensing is underway and everything's been submitted to the state, according to our principal. Andy, your comment about you can't blame the situation that JBS is in right now if you sent your child to Montessori. I did send my child to Montessori. And then when it was time for kindergarten, he went to Jamaica. He's in Jamaica right now. So I fully support JBS, and I couldn't send him to pre-K in Jamaica because we don't have pre-K. And the comment about, beating down the door of the board if parents wanted to send their kids to pre-K in Jamaica, the board has never been responsive to anything that Jamaica wants. And every single year, the board has talked about closing Jamaica Village School. Why would any parent go to the board and expect to get anything in support of Jamaica as a board? And as a parent, you're just trying to find a place to send your kid to go to pre-K. And it's not offered in your town. So you have to make a decision. Do you want to go over to Townsend or do you want to pay to go somewhere else? I chose to pay to go somewhere else. I would have loved to send my child to JPS for pre-K. It just wasn't available. And if we had pre-K, he would have gone there and we would have, I truly believe we would have better enrollment if we had pre-K. And I think that is all of my comments for now. Thank you.
Okay, Len, I'm
So,
sorry,
I
you had something?
have a question. So you have the West River Education District.
Mm-hmm.
So equity, anybody ever talked about equilibrium? I mean, if the district is supposed to be a shared district and everybody's an equal partner,
Yeah.
then there should be some sense of equilibrium instead of, it sounds to me, and I don't know enough, I don't know nearly enough, but it sounds to me like, from what I've heard, there are pushes to go here or there instead of what should be an equilibrium of these are our facilities and.
Well, in some cases, our votes are, just few.
So, back when the district was formed, and I know there's some people that don't feel like their voices have been heard, but Jamaica was one of the towns that pushed for interdistrict choice. That was part of the conversation. If you're gonna go way back then and pull up the videos, watch the discussion, that was the equilibrium. It was any student in the district can go to whatever school they want. They're all open and available. Now, it did not work out in Jamaica's favor for student numbers.
Right.
Some would say the education is now better because it's more individualized. Others would say, I prefer having my kid in Jamaica or Townsend because they have a bigger group of friends. Some say, I prefer to have my kid in Newfane because their playground is way better than Townsend's. I mean, everybody made those choices based on what was important to them and their family. But that's what the discussion was about. And that provision of interdistrict choice is not in every education district. That was something that was put in at the request of the people that were coming to those votes. It wasn't the board forced it on Jamaica. It wasn't, anything, nefarious. It was what the people asked for was, we just want to be able to send our kids to wherever we want to send our kids. At this point, now it may change this year. Karen's got 100 kids she's going to stuff in that school this year. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be great. If we got 100 more students into Jamaica, all of our taxes would go down. That's great.
Is there anything that precludes Jamaica from advertising locally?
She's doing it.
I mean, no, I understand, but I mean,
There's not, I'll be honest, I haven't seen evidence that so the West River Education District is actually a smaller district of a larger southern central Vermont district. I'm not seeing a lot of resources, like I've seen a lot of, home outreach. And I'm new to this, so I feel a bit like I'm not qualified to vote one way or the other. It's what I'm seeing now. I don't see any.
There's no market.
Right.
There's no.
Right.
The education district's not out there like marketing.
But
we don't have.
It's not even, I don't see
Again, the only person that ever shows up at a school board meeting is Katie. If you look at the school board meetings for the last year, she's the only member of the public that ever shows up. So now, those warnings have been here, they get posted. The town clerk knows exactly when they are. People are not coming, they're not engaged. It's not, the board is not going out and advertising. We're not putting out flyers. Again, every single year I make the same plea. If you care about what happens to students in Jamaica, come get involved.
Okay, so that says.
That is it.
Yeah.
Right, as a
Like,
board
come
member
get
from
involved.
Jamaica, you don't feel like it's.
Well, I look, I've been sitting on the board and I look out in the audience and Karen's been there a couple times in the last year, but other than that, Katie's the only person in the entire room. That's it.
Right.
So,
But there was, we've had other board
We had-
members very vocal, and it does seem that nevertheless, we are where we are. Maybe it's it's just the nature of boards, I don't know.
I never got totally involved in it until I became a board member, and then I saw what it takes to get involved into it. And, I'm guilty.
right, it's my first time coming to your select board meeting because you sent me a summons. So, to say fair, I wouldn't be sitting here at your meeting unless you invited me, because we're all busy lives. Like, we just don't get involved until there's a hot topic. That's kind of the way that we all work. Until there's something that all of a sudden piques our interest, we don't get involved.
Right.
So there's one positive thing here that there is some motivation and discussion going on, and
Absolutely.
just like Jessica said, I've been involved, but very, very remotely, and not super qualified of knowing and understand all these details. But there has been a lot of conversation about how can we downsize enough to save some money, and maybe we should be looking at how can we upsize enough so we can get our denominator a little bigger, so we can divide this cost out across many more students. And that seems to be a discussion that hasn't really happened, and maybe this is the groundswell that we can get that going. I don't know.
Well, housing. Why do we not have more families, more people?
But it seems there are families here. I was surprised.
Where are they?
I'm surprised by that number too.
They're out there.
That list is it's gonna be visible.
And I will be.
All towns have that challenge.
So, and I gotta be honest, I'll be shocked if we all of a sudden have 100 students in Jamaica next fall. The students that aren't coming to Jamaica this year are not gonna come next
It's
year.
gonna be 10 more,
But that's
10
sort
more,
of an
10 more.
odd, that's an odd way of phrasing it, right? It's more like, can we turn this ship? We're obviously not gonna fill the cruise ship overnight. That's not gonna happen. It's what are the levers that we have? What options do we have we know that this vision of a major campus with multiple classes, it's not gonna happen, right?
Not overnight.
Right. If the 2035 projection is 375 students, I can tell you, I'm gonna look in my crystal ball, we're not getting a fabulous new shiny spanking new campus.
We'll probably fit everybody until the 11th grade.
If that, right?
But
So knowing that, what can we do? Because there are families here today. There's a town that's working towards vitalization today. What are the levers that that's what I'd be looking for. So just words and thoughts around what are the levers that we have to revitalize, to at least leverage the school to the maximum that we have it now.
well, you get this registration for April 1st. If you get the pre-Kers and get the people into the school to sign up, to come back in. One of the big pushers that might upset the whole thing is Wyndham will be probably sending their kids to Townsend, which will take up more slots and more space.
Or Jamaica.
Well, they could.
Yeah.
Right now, they could go to Newbrook. They could go wherever they choose to go within it. Problem is, they could come to Jamaica. They could all come to Jamaica. I know at one time, Wyndham wanted us to go there. So, or they could all go to Floodbrook.
Karen, did you have something?
I did. It kind of goes with what I said before, that if the board or the administration or the district would promote our schools more, that would be great, and like what you were just saying. But there's no promotion.
No.
There's just talk of closing. And I just want to reiterate that there's not 100 kids for the grade school. It's 112 children, found another one.
That's right.
From infant to 18. The board meetings, you were talking about the board not being involved in the school, and you guys are so busy, and the school board is so busy to get involved with a lot of town things, although these two guys do get involved.
Same night.
But it is the same night. So I am now going to just come to one select board meeting a month and go to the school board the other Monday night. But that's tough because I try to be really involved in town things too. And the single campus idea is great if we could have a new school. But Townsend is already cramped. There is no room.
And we're like $75 million short.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's not really a place.
Right.
So the best thing to do,
I just wonder why the school board difference, because it used to be different than ours. Why are they the same as ours now?
Competing, like Bob has other towns in it.
Just like, oh,
Well, it started with Bill and Bob. Yeah, blame Bob.
short end of the stick again.
But, Marlboro's is one night, and then,
Okay. All right, 2 hands up. So Greg, will you call them? And then we'll call.
Chrissy, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, 2 more and then we'll call the vote, guys.
Sorry. Oop, I didn't do it.
Thanks, everyone. Drew, you asked why nobody in Jamaica comes to the board meetings. I just want to reiterate again that I was, when there was that big push for long-term planning and you had the task forces, I was on the task force and I came to meetings and I was very involved at that point and I was commenting at board meetings and everything, and I just, from the comments the board was making, it gave me the impression that the board didn't want to hear our comments. that for some reason our comments weren't valuable to the board, and that's why I stopped. I can't speak for anybody else, but you asked the question, so I'm giving you my answer. I stopped because I did not feel that my input was valued by the board. And so if my input's not going to be valued, why am I going to spend my time participating? And then I wanted to ask, well, first of all, I wanted to say that there is no good process in our district, and I think this is district-wide for sure. There's no good process to identify incoming pre-K and kindergarten students. When my son was an incoming pre-K student, I actually reached out to Heidi because she was at Townsend Elementary at the time, and I know Heidi personally. And she told me I wasn't even on a radar for having a pre-K student. And so I guess the process is just word of mouth that who knows who with kids. And that's how the school finds people to send packets to. So that process really needs to change. And then I have a question for Drew and Dana as to if, with Wyndham sending their kids potentially to our schools, if the board chooses to close Jamaica and, votes, any applicable votes do happen, so let's assume, in this hypothetical, let's say Jamaica closes, who gets priority in Townsend? Do Jamaica students get priority in Townsend, or do Wyndham students get priority in Townsend?
Well, hypothetically, Jamaica students would. It would pretty much eliminate the school choice district-wide, because there are Newbrook students residents of Newbrook, their kids go to Townsend. So if we were to force Jamaica to close, they're part of the district, they'd be the primary. Wyndham kids would get the only available slots. Newbrook's kids that go to Townsend would have to go to Newbrook. It would definitely eliminate the school choice.
A silly question.
Is there any chance that in the short term for maybe, let's say, Newfane or Brookline students that are attending Townsend already through the inter-district choice, that they would continue to go there and a Jamaica student would be forced to go to Newbrook?
I can't speak for the administration. I would say that would be highly unlikely. We're not sitting in a position right now where we have too many students. Keep in mind that the majority of the Wyndham students that would be coming next year are already in the school. They have been since Christmas. So those students are there. They're there now. And there's nothing that says Jamaica School is closing. So, the conversation is like that Jamaica's, there's been no votes. It's a discussion as to whether the school is viable with 9 students. But the budget reflects that you're voting on Wednesday reflects keeping the school open to the status quo.
Right.
So if the board was serious about, we are closing the school, then what we would have presented to you was a budget that didn't have the school in it. Mm-hmm. So, that's the reality.
The school can be closed even if the budget was voted. That doesn't, that's what that the view was that the board had authority to make substantial changes to the school, regardless of the total budget that was voted.
Absolutely, the board can.
Which I have some concerns with, but I'm just telling you, this is not a rumor. It was an actual discussion in public, and I just want that to be cleared up that this is not people making stuff up.
But I'm saying, as far as the board voting, so there's a couple different ways the board would be, expressing its will to the public about changing programming.
Right.
One is the same way you guys do it, through a budget adjustment. You make an adjustment to the highway budget, you triple the amount of asphalt that's in it, then you just made a policy change that you're going to pave 3 times as much road. Right. Well, the school board does the same thing. If we want to institute a new program, we add it to the budget, and that is one of the ways that we put that information out. And if you vote for the budget, then the assumption is the public has supported the new program that we put in place.
Right.
Or if we cut programs in order to keep the budget low, then we explain that we cut the budget, and if the budget passes, then the public has approved that. Mm-hmm. In this case, we would be asking the public for a direct vote to close the school. It would come to a ballot, people would actually vote on it. Now, the school board does have the authority, just like the select board, in certain circumstances, to make those changes, much like what happened in Wyndham when they lost all of their staff. Well, you can't run a school if you don't have staff. So they didn't have a lot of options, so the school board chose to temporarily shut down their school, send the kids out, and then let the town vote on it. The school board does have the authority to do that. We witnessed it happen next door this year. Part of the reason why we had the conversation we did at town meeting was we want to make very sure Jamaica residents are aware that there are very few students signed up for Jamaica next year, and this conversation needs to happen in public. We do not want a repeat of the turmoil that happened in Wyndham. We want to have an actual conversation. I've urged the board, I know Dana has urged the board to schedule these meetings, let the public come out and talk to the board. I don't know when they're going to do it. I'm hopeful they will. As of right now, we don't have anything scheduled.
We're two voices on that board. It's
I think, you know what, it's 8:20, and there's this, there is the meeting tomorrow, the info session.
Please call.
Was there? Erica Bowman.
had her hand up.
Okay, sorry, Erica, please, and then I'll call the vote.
Thank you. I'll probably be pretty quick here. I just wanted to say that in listening to all of this, I see a couple of opportunities that are positive for the potential for this school to revive itself. And the first opportunity I see is a complete rebranding and marketing of a pre-K and K opportunity, that it has the same sort of attractiveness as something like the Montessori school in Londonderry. One of the things that we have that is so much greater than even that Montessori school is this amazing natural resource of a campus. And the sooner if we are going to embrace this, I think we need to, as a community, embrace it fully and talk about it in a positive light as this is what we're doing. We're rebranding our kindergarten, our pre-K. We're starting something new and refreshing the face of the place. That way that you start getting new faces. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, on the Wyndham School comparison, it's actually the takeaway that I have from that experience is that it does go to show how much bad publicity can impact an entire district. A lot of stuff went down in that school, but there was also a lot of public shaming of that school that happened, it's been happening for years. And I believe that led to the downfall of that school. And so I don't want that to happen to the Jamaica school. And I think that if we are going to commit to continuing this school, making it a place that we want to keep, we need to all agree to speak positively about the opportunities as we move forward and make it something that people feel excited about and not worried about. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you, Erica.
One quick.
Quick.
Does the board ever ride a circuit?
Does what? I'm sorry, I didn't get
Does the board ever ride a circuit?
No.
Ride a circuit?
Is there any way to require them to hold meetings at these schools?
No way to require it, but you can certainly request it. Yeah.
I mean,
It sounds like it's been requested and it's fallen on deaf ears.
participation purposes, if they held a meeting in Jamaica, then they held a meeting in Leland Gray, then they held,
Oh, instead of being in the same physical location?
Correct.
Oh.
Giving people,
rotated around.
yeah, I thought you would get that.
No, I'm really new.
No, circuit courts, I was like,
Oh, circuit. Got it.
it's my constitutional districts.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes, just like the circuit courts.
Yes.
So many years ago, the board did that, but not, I would say that hasn't happened in at least 5 or 6 years.
That would probably be an amazing opportunity for people.
Nobody came then either, but I would certainly be willing to recommend it again.
It'd be coordinating with BCTV, set up a schedule, make sure the internet works and all that. We've had difficulties having it in one spot with the hybrid meeting, so,
Sounds like a lot of headwinds.
yeah.
So,
All right.
one last thing.
Yes, please.
Public, come out.
Yeah.
Please, whoever's watching, not only come out tomorrow, but in the upcoming, there's probably not a lot of information coming out tomorrow at the budget meeting, and you can ask a lot of questions, but I don't know that there's going to be a what happens if Jamaica students type of meeting.
Right.
But that is a topic on, I imagine, every board meeting agenda moving forward is the student census. So
Long-term planning is
long-term
on.
planning. So I highly encourage people to come out and
Time?
yes.
So, thank you, first of all, thank you. I'm sorry. You had
7 o'clock.
something that I issued
Leland and Gray.
for you to hear.
Or on Zoom.
Thank you so much. I found this very helpful, and you're absolutely right. It's a tough conversation, high stakes. I'm new to it. I feel pretty, just to feel disadvantaged and even kind of having a vote or a say at all. But this has been very helpful, thank you. And I want to thank everybody who's joined by Zoom and participated. Karen, as always, thank you, and to the board. But it is time to call the vote. So the vote is whether, first of all, just confirming you are interested in remaining on the board.
So excited for the opportunity.
All right. So we are tasked with, making a formal recommendation to the school board to take you on as Jamaica's representative. So I'm going to make.
There is no other people out there.
Yeah, there's no, right, absent, right.
There's no.
But that's not why we want you to do it.
No, but it's not right, exactly. Right. Do we all vote in favor of the one person who should?
No, I didn't.
Is this for 1 year?
No, I think it's a 3-year term. That's what we're filling.
And we are only making a recommendation.
We're making a recommendation. We're not voting. We're just making a formal
So it's up
recommendation.
to the board whether it's just appointed for 1 year of a 3-year term.
Oh, is it? Oh, thank you. I thought it was a 3-year, but
Well,
I
it is
think.
a 3-year, but when things are appointed, usually you fill 1 year and then.
Oh, and then
next
there'll be an
meeting,
election
it would be
next year.
posted
So
again.
if what you're thinking
And
in
if
your
I'm
mind
still
is,
here,
I
I'll
can handle
remember.
1 year, it sounds like you're really only agreeing to stand for 1 year. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. And you had told me that. Shame on me, I forgot. She had. Sarah's on top of this stuff. So I'll make a motion to consider recommending Drew Hazelton to the school board for what will ultimately be a term of 1 year. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes.
And just, I know how busy you are and everyone else, like tomorrow night, I serve in another capacity for the town of Jamaica. There's a full Wyndham Regional Commission meeting. And if Mike doesn't go, I have to go. So, not that I would be at every school board meeting if they didn't fall on the same night. Well, I would definitely go to that. I'm just saying that we're all not making excuses for everybody.
Well, with BCTV, we can't attend your meetings, but we catch up on them a couple days later. We're on a couple days later.
People watch this one, I can assure you.
Yeah. So,
And feel free to reach out to us.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And your legislators, because the education funding
Well,
formula
yeah.
is the ultimate problem.
Yeah, that's, yes.
They need to fix it.
Thank you. So the next agenda item, actually, I think we've covered, but if we still have folks who would like to discuss the village school, its enrollment and development, I mean, we've covered a lot of it, but if there's anybody else wants to add anything, I think we've covered both of those topics.
I really liked what Erica had to say, and that was what I was about
Yeah,
to say, is that I think we just need to promote Jamaica School, but the whole school district. And Leland and Gray is doing a great job with a lot of those kids down there. There's great programs.
Right.
And,
Social media, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, absolutely. I agree entirely. Anybody?
Does have her hand up.
Does someone who does? Chrissy? Chrissy, you have your hand up. You want to say something?
Yes, I know we took up a lot of the board's time tonight with all of this talk about school, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the board members for having this conversation and taking the time out of your meeting to do this. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And I think, Len, I'm sensing you have some expertise here because you had some lingo and some good questions there.
Oh,
So,
only 20 plus.
oh, really?
Public schools.
This may be the subject of a separate conversation. We like it. That would be really helpful just to have your input and.
Yeah, I mean, I had questions. I just had fun. I had like funding questions about like Section 504 of the ADA and then IDEA and how those costs get.
Right.
And that probably, well, you may know that, but it probably went over the heads of a lot of other.
A lot of other people, but we, definitely for a discussion for another time. So thank you.
Talking to Laura Sibilia would be really good.
Yes, legislators. Yeah. I'll try and get us all together. She's around a lot.
I'm only certified for secondary, so.
That's all right, we'll take it. The next topic is our FEMA general update and our Vermont Bond Bank funding update. So the great news is all the paperwork was done. Thank you, Sarah, the board members for signing. It's been delivered and approved. So we should have $422,000 in our account tomorrow. So that's fantastic. Virtually interest-free for a year. And so that was terrific news. In terms of a general update, I know Mike had sent around a quick update. Looks like good news on our 2021 funding, but maybe nothing new since the last meeting, or yes? Did you want to share anything, Mike?
Well, nothing significant, but we've really made progress with the state buyout program. We've got basically all the properties and ready to be kind of taking that next phase, whether it's a buyout or an improvement on their embankments in those individual properties. And we do have the information. We should be able to finalize everything with FEMA for the FEMA event 4621 back in 2021. And hopefully that'll bring to the town another 572,000 plus or minus.
Great.
And I'll get with you tomorrow, Jessica, on that memorandum and get that out to the state.
We'll do it. We'll do
Can I
it.
ask?
But you've got to cover a lot of good things. Our program manager from FEMA is back in town. Well, I'll be working with her this week on updates, more particularly with Ball Mountain Brook. And really that's kind of the focus. I do want to get an RFP together probably in the next few weeks so we can get contract services in place so we can schedule the work early in the spring or in the summertime. And we're making strides on the flood resiliency plan too with Wyndham Regional Commission, trying to work with Chris Campbell and trying to get addressing some of the stormwater coming down Ball Mountain Brook.
Andy, did you have a question?
Just, Mike, do you know exactly how many of those are buyouts besides the one on Water Street, which I don't know if we're involved in that?
There are only really two buyouts.
What the other one is?
One on Route 100 South,
Okay.
the Ladd property, and then there's the one on Water Street, 31 Street.
That's the only other one I know about was the that property.
Thank you,
Those are
Mike.
to the ones that were allowed buyouts based
Right.
on that criteria.
Okay.
All right.
USDA, there's 3 embankment projects, and we have a contract engineer working with those property owners.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. And Andy, if you can make that meeting next week,
Yes.
I would greatly appreciate it.
Just let me know.
I haven't had a date with my wife since the pandemic, and we're going to Albany next Thursday, so you can.
Yes.
All right. The next topic, and there's IT later, so we should raise your email, is, here I did spend a bit more time on Jamaica Village School and those issues last week, so I did not draft a letter and circulate it. I will do that before the next meeting. But what I can do is just preview with the board that I've been receiving notifications from quite a few folks about both new and persistent issues of violations of our parking ordinance. And my preference is to prepare a letter for the homeowners, which with some assistance from the town office, I've identified the owners, because sometimes it's Airbnb, it's people who are engaging in short-term rentals where there are persistent violations. And I'm gonna offer to the select board a draft generic letter that would go to all violators to notify them that we are seeing persistent violations, what they are in the nature of, and the fact that there are potential fines, if not vehicle removal, as consequences, in an effort to hopefully give people time to understand that they're going above and beyond. The town is not required to do this. It's just, I would love to avoid issuing tickets and towing cars.
Right.
Who wants to do that? No one does. So my suggestion is going to be, let's go above and beyond, let's mail letters, let's give people an opportunity to respond, ask questions, and take the necessary steps to desist in those violations.
I've gotten phone calls from people who are being asked to move their rights. And one suggestion is that, and I wanted to ask you, are we going to put any signs about this ordinance up?
That's part of it, though.
We don't have to. I mean, it's not, as a citizen of Jamaica,
Right.
You are obligated to comply. Ignorance of the law is no defense.
Okay.
And we've published it around town. It costs money to put up signs.
No.
And
Can we put up a couple?
Well, there were signs put up, and they didn't work very well. There were signs at both at Pikes Falls and at Hamilton's Falls, and they didn't actually change behavior. So I'm disinclined, but willing
I thought we were going to put a couple signs up.
I thought we were obligated to put towaway signs, and we are not.
No, I didn't mean that specifically, just that we have an ordinance. Like, like on Route 30, it says from 7 to whatever.
Yeah, the winter parking ban or something.
Right, that's the state.
Right, but I think
The
in
state
general,
does that.
I would feel the same way that
Put one on Pikes
Well, we have,
Falls.
what are the signs that we have here? Didn't we get some delivered?
I guess there used to be.
The sheriff's signs.
Pikes Falls.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, that at least there's a sign
think
saying
they
we
would.
have an ordinance.
Yes.
section.
So we have some signs. The sheriff's department gave us some signs. Let's talk to Keith. And
Yeah, I think that's
can I
part of
work
the
with you
same
on that one?
philosophy that you just talked about, that's be preemptive and make people aware of this.
Right.
And the owner of an Airbnb's never gonna be able to communicate that to every single guest, but if that person pulled in, saw, oh, no parking.
Oh, they actually can communicate it to their
I know, but I mean, that's the same as us as a board or a town, that's the
Right.
same initiative to be proactive in letting people know, and putting up a sign at each end of the zone is probably not too big of a deal.
Right, and I hear, and the sheriff did give us some signs.
Yes.
I don't know if they actually fit the situation I'm talking about, which is don't park on a sidewalk and don't park in a roadway. Which strikes me
Pretty
as
basic,
do I actually have to tell you that?
Right.
There are some signs here, so let's just talk with Keith about
Yeah,
how
we'll
they
see
can
which
be
ones
placed
make sense
around
and
and-
which where, and,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
outside.
We do have a laminator, we could make our own.
But where would they then go? Just like tie them
We
to
could-
poles?
That would be something we can ask.
I'm just saying we
Keith.
could put anything we
So
wanted
here's-
on them if we made our own and then laminated them.
Keith doesn't have,
Just
they
an
don't
idea.
get them.
Yeah,
It's not a
exactly.
big sign, Fanny, another thing to hit and lose. It's
Exactly.
stolen.
Make sure we get a permit for them.
Right.
You know, just as sort of a courtesy to our townsfolk.
Everybody, right.
That we've got an ordinance that we're gonna enforce.
Right.
You know, I know.
Okay.
We should know, I should know a lot of things.
Right, you don't-
I know when you go to court and you got a ticket for parking,
Right.
they're gonna say, it's too bad you didn't know. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, thank you for that discussion.
And that was what one of the calls was, that, and it's one of the people I think you're dealing with.
Oh, that
Lack of a
I know who you're talking about.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
So we're
great conversation on a Sunday afternoon.
Right. No, believe me, I've been having it.
I heard.
Yeah. But as nicely as possible. So the next thing I wanted to do is just kind of give a brief update from the last JPC meeting. Just touching on the fact that there was a kickoff with the Wyndham, a representative from the Wyndham Regional Commission, we received a grant to have him as our consultant to assist in the development of the new town plan, which is fantastic. And those minutes, did we get those minutes yet? And Charlie's writing those minutes. And so that's pretty exciting. I think that's a great kickoff.
He's from Wyndham Regional?
Yes, he is, and he seemed great.
I had never met him before now.
We met him for the first time at the meeting, and yes, and I think you'll like him very much, very knowledgeable. So that was terrific. In addition, the JPC is still kind of fine tuning its recommendations for ARPA funds. The update of our inventory of road segments is still, in process. The RFP is being refined. It's still on the list. I think there's some difference of opinion on what that inventory, what asset that inventory creates. I'm convinced.
I think that the planning commission has been extremely helpful to identify what we need to do. I mean, some of it's just continuing filling out some permit applications and updates and stuff like that we maybe without,
in order to get into compliance,
just to get up to speed, and also identifying other resources where we can tap the Wyndham Regional and some of their people to update our road standards, not update the standards, update our inventory of where we do and don't meet the standards. And then to try to prioritize those and to
create a thoughtful schedule
of work and maybe where do we apply grants to, how does that balance into some of the mitigation money that we might be getting from FEMA. So there's been a great conversation between Planning Commission and Mike and a couple other players. So.
Right. Anything else that we would raise from that?
Just that, thank you to the Jamaica Planning Commission that meets once or twice a month. I mean, like the Selectboard does, and another.
And they got a lot of things on their plate.
So great.
A lot of stuff going on.
So great. Yeah, for free, and they're so knowledgeable. We're very
They don't even
fortunate.
get us there.
Yes. The next item of business, thank you, and is IT work and a spend approval. Sarah, roughly how much is the next sort of slug of work, the next slug of hours?
So I spoke with Sam, the IT guy last week. I'm sorry, I'm exhausted. And I said, we need to approve this block. And basically, if we buy 20 hours, it's a block and we get it at a reduced thing. And all the other things just seemed like a lot of extra paying for what we didn't really need. If we needed it, we could use this block time. So to me, it made the most sense just to purchase this block time.
Right, and that was under his contract, so it's really just approving this next set of spend. We have an hourly rate though, right? And so what would we be approving in terms of total spend?
It's less for the hourly rate.
I apologize, I should have reached out to Sam.
Yeah, I should have
get
gotten
the
more
numbers.
information, I just didn't have time today. It was on my thought list, it just didn't happen. Basically, I just wanted to make sure that it was approved and that we weren't having him do stuff that wasn't approved.
Right. So it's approved under the contract, which we already approved, but what we'll do is, as as it's drawn down, so to speak, we'll update the board. But between now and the next meeting, we're gonna formalize kind of the next group of tasks that Sam is gonna undertake and to utilize a block, buy a block of time from him to be how it gets paid for, rather than by task, which tends to be more economical.
But we did also, the listers' computers have all been set up per computer, so we will start be getting billed for those.
Okay.
He came in the other day, did some amazing work, and he needs to come back and do just a little bit more, but the emails are straightened out, or almost. Once he does the other work, the third computer will be set up, but everything is great.
Fantastic. Andy, are you saying you're still struggling with your Jamaica email?
Sarah gave me a phone number for him, and my bad for not calling him. But I don't get any of Mike's emails,
Because you're probably going to your Jamaica email.
No, I get
because I sent you two.
No, I get yours. To
Right,
my
because I'm sending it to
address.
Jamaica and to your Gmail,
I
yeah.
get some from Sarah, and I get some, but I'll call him again.
I gotta call him too, so I can check my email at home.
I think he can even fix it from
Right,
wherever.
exactly. All right, so I'm adding now the overweight permit. Is it in does anybody have it? Where's the overweight permit?
It's in the basket, I never even brought the basket.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I'll move, while Sarah's grabbing that, I'll move to the next item, which is to review and approve the timesheets for the town office, listers, highway, and transfer station. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the timesheets? If no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Andy seconded that motion.
That's it.
And Greg. So we approved the pay orders and Andy seconded. Okay. I made the motion.
Do I do this one?
Yes, yeah, we'll go back up now to the overweight permit.
So we have one overweight permit, they have an insurance up here, so I will make a motion to approve the overweight permit for Lindwell Drilling Incorporated out of Guilford, Vermont.
I know the guy, so.
I'll second the motion.
I'm friends with the guy.
Oh, no kidding. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll abstain.
And Andy's abstaining. Thank you. Next is to review and approve the pay orders. Any discussion? Make a motion to approve. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please. Oh, second. I need a second. Greg seconded. Thank you. With no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay. Now, it's been a long meeting, but any other public concerns from those online or in the room? No hands? Okay. I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great.